everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. Today we're gonna do a good old wrap up. I didn't do a January wrap up, so we're gonna do both. We're gonna do January and February, so you get double the books. Lucky you. I technically read 12 books so far this year, but 2 of them were rereads, so I'm not gonna talk about them. I love watching people doing their wrap up, so I love making it as well. Let's start with the book that we've all read this year, Onyx Storm. The 2 rereads were Fourth Wing and Iron Flame because I did not remember much. So I read Onyx Storm this year, like all of us, we've all read it. I actually really did love it. I preferred it so much more to Iron Flame. Obviously, I'm not gonna talk about the plot because I don't wanna spoil anything from the first 2 books. But this is the 3rd book in the Empyrean series. It's by Rebecca Yarros. It's a romantasy book that gives a bit like Divergent meets Dragons kind of thing. Obviously, I can't talk about the plot, but I really enjoyed the plot. I think the beginning was a little bit slow, but then it picked up quite quickly. And one thing about this book, every single character slayed. They did not come to play. Every single character in this book, especially the boys, when I tell you, every single one of them was on their best behavior. I loved every character. I think this is why I love this book so much, because I just love the characters so much. Like, they're so fun. The found family aspect of it, their friendships, I love them. The ending was insane. I have a million theories, and now I feel like we have to wait at least 2 years and I'm gonna cry. So let's not think about that. I gave it 4.5 stars. Then I read All Roads Lead Here. I've heard so much about this. I've seen it all over TikTok. One of my best friend's favorite books, and she gifted it to me for my birthday. So I was like, it's time to read it. I really enjoyed it. Mariana Zapata is like the queen of slow burns. So if you enjoy slow burn romances, Mariana Zapata is gonna be the perfect author for you. What's her name? Aurora. What's his name? One thing about me, I will not remember a name ever. So Aurora is this lovely girl that moves back to her birth town, and she hasn't been there in so long. Her mom passed away when she was young, so she has a bit conflicting like emotions about this place. And her landlord, after a couple of problems with the house, her landlord is this like moody, kind of rude guy, and beautiful, of course. Of course, stunning. He has a teenage boy. He's a single dad. It's enemies to lovers. It's forced proximity because they live next to each other. He looks so mean, but he's actually a lovely guy, and he's a great dad, and he has a difficult past. Oh, it's very cute. It's very warm and fuzzy and just lovely. It's a great love story. It's a slow burn. They're not gonna hold hands for 700 pages, okay? It's a Mariana Zapata book. But like, there's a lot of tension and banter, and oh, it's lovely. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was cute, just warm and fuzzy. This is not in order. I'm just going through like how they are in the pile. The next book is Dance of Thieves. I heard so much about this book, and I've had it on my TBR for a good while. I was excited to read it, but kind of scared at the same time. This is a fantasy romance enemies to lovers book. This is what they tell you, right? I heard that this was a fantasy romance enemies to lovers. Now, I don't think it's very fantasy though. Like, there's not much fantasy going on, and it's okay. It's just like in a fantasy world, but with no magic. So if you're looking for like a crazy magic system and a world like that, you don't get it with this. But this book is the first book in a duology, but this duology is a spin-off of another series. So I did not read that series, so I feel like there might be more fantasy and more like magic explanation in that series, but I didn't read it, so that's on me. So being part of a spin-off, I technically didn't get a little bit of the world building and some characters, so I feel like I didn't give it its full potential. I really enjoyed it, don't get me wrong. I really loved it. I loved the characters. I loved the love story. I loved their dynamic and their banter. It was great banter. I gave it 3.75 stars. Could go up to a 4. So I still really liked it. I think the thing that I disliked the most, I didn't know it was YA when I went into this. And the fact that she's 17, I'm too old, I think now. I think I'm now too old for 17-year-olds main characters. So I'm like, you are a child. Because I think about like me when I was 17. To be fair, I moved to a different country when I was 17. Actually, I take that back because 17-year-old me was way stronger than me now. Anyway, that's not the point. So our main characters are Cassie and Jace. Cassie is a 17-year-old Queen's Guard, and she is incredibly skilled in combat. She used to be a street thief when she was younger because she was an orphan. She became an orphan very young, so she wasn't around for a long time. And he is the leader of another part of the continent, another leader. His dad just passed away, so now he is the leader. Cassie wanted to arrest Jace, but ended up both of them being kidnapped and chained together. So it's forced proximity, it's betrayal, it's love, and it's forbidden romance, and there's a lot going on. There's friendship, there's love, there's family. If I went back in time, I probably would read the trilogy before, because the first 30 pages of this book I was like, what's going on? I was very confused, I'm not gonna lie, but then I got it, so it was fine. So technically you can read it without the trilogy before. I will definitely be finishing the duology. I'm excited to actually read the second book. But one thing I'm gonna tell you is, if you're expecting a slow burn, this isn't it. I know technically they're like, oh, they're enemies to lovers to enemies. They're really not. They're really not. Also, I believe that Lauren Roberts must have read this. For sure. There's no way Lauren Roberts hasn't read this book, because when I tell you, Reckless by her, I think she pretty much took heavy inspiration from this. I know she took heavy inspiration from Red Queen for the first book. She took heavy inspirations from this for the second book. There's no doubts, because it's the same book. I think this is better than Reckless though. Next book from this pile is Beck Borrows Steel by Sarah Adams. I really enjoyed this book. This was so cute. I think I gave it 4 stars. This is an enemies to lovers small town romance. Now, once again, this book is technically the third in a interconnected standalone series called When in Rome. I own the first 2 books, but I just wanted to read this because everyone was talking about this, and they're interconnected standalone, so you can absolutely do that, it's fine. I actually had a great time. I read it so quick. It was fun. It was enemies to lovers with great banter. Once again, great banter. It talks about Emily and Jack. So Emily is like the older sister that has to have everything planned, and she's like kind of closed off to relationships. And Jack is her nemesis. They've been like a nemesis since they've known each other, like at the beginning of college. And they're both teachers, so they work together. So like their animosity continues at work. And Jack moved away a while ago, like 8 months ago, to move to Nebraska with his fiance because they were gonna get married and, you know, live there. But now he's back. He's back in town, in her little town called Rome in Kentucky. Things evolve, and I really enjoyed it. I had a great time. It was so fun. I loved both characters. That's the thing. Both characters I loved. And Emily was a little bit too relatable for me. Sometimes she would say stuff and I'd be like, Emily. She's quite a relatable character. And she wanted to be an author, so she was writing a romance book, which I thought was so nice. I love when authors write about authors, because I will never be an author. I'm not an author. I don't know what it feels like to write a novel. And I love when they make their characters talk about what it's like for them to write a book, because I'm like, I feel like that's actually Sarah Adams talking about how much she loves writing instead of Emily. So I really enjoy it. Emily Henry does it a lot as well. So I had a great time, loved it. Next book is a thriller. Actually, I finished this like 3 days ago. This is Never Lie by Frida McFadden. I enjoyed this. I had a great time. But unfortunately, my problem with this book is that I predicted it. Unfortunately, I was right. I had I thought at the beginning, I was like, what if? And then it was right. So that ruined it a tiny bit for me. I really enjoyed the writing. Quick, easy, goes so quick. You can read this in a day. First of all, it's very tiny, and like the writing is so like easy to read, not complicated at all. The plot twist was great if I didn't get it, but then 98% of people don't get it. I'm just that smart, guys. I'm just that smart. It's not Frida McFadden's fault. It's my fault. What can you do? My mom didn't see it coming at all, and she loved it. So, and I know other people that have read it that loved it so much because they didn't see the crazy plot twist coming. So you may not see it coming, and if you don't see it coming, I think this is gonna be great. This talks about newlyweds Trisha and Ethan, and they are house hunting. They're going to view this house because they are looking to buy a house, but it's snowing so bad, there's a blizzard going on, so they get stuck in the house, them two in this house. And it turns out this house belonged to a psychiatrist, Adrienne, and Adrienne disappeared like 3 years ago, and it's still an unresolved mystery what happened to this psychiatrist. And Trisha finds all the tapes and recordings of Adrienne's sessions with her patients. So she starts listening and she discovers things that happened, and maybe we can solve the mystery of what happened to the psychiatrist 3 years ago. Great plot, and it's actually quite interesting. The characters are so interesting. I just unfortunately predicted it. Not like 100% of it, but most of it I predicted it. So also, I don't know how I feel about the end. The light is coming and going. I don't know if you can see. Oh, this book, probably my favorite so far this year with Onyx Storm. Once again, this was a 4.5 stars. I actually did a reading vlog reading this, the next book that I'm going to talk about, and Dance of Thieves, and I'm going to post that right after this video. So I think you should subscribe and watch that reading vlog because it was so good. Such a good reading vlog. I actually really enjoyed it. This is Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. It was my first Hannah Bonham Young book ever. I had never read anything by her. I enjoyed every second of this. This is a pregnancy book, and I enjoy a pregnancy plot so much. Plot though, I don't enjoy a pregnancy trope. If it happens like 3/4 in the book and it's absolutely unnecessary and it's just to make the couple stay together, I hate that. But if it's like the whole plot, like Out on a Limb, like Reckless by Elsie Silver, like The Goal by Elle Kennedy, I will eat it up every time. Win and Bo are both in their late 20s. They meet at a Halloween party and they have a one-night stand, and immediately they said to each other, this is just a one-night stand, I can't go into a relationship. They're both going through things, like they had a bad breakup, so they both said this is just a one-night stand. And Win and Bo both kind of bonded from the fact that they both have disabilities. Win was born with a little hand, and Bo lost his leg, I think, a year before this night, but we don't know the story of how he lost it. You'll know it in the book. The banter is unmatched, so good. Him, Bo, when I tell you, one of the best male characters I've read about in so long. Gentle and loving and funny and nerdy, and he's got glasses. Absolutely loved him, loved her. They're both so funny. I was like laughing out loud at times, like so funny, like warm and fuzzy. And yeah, she's pregnant, and then they have to deal with this, and then they end up like kind of living together, so it's forced proximity as well, and their relationship evolves. It's so good. Please read this book. I didn't give it 5 stars because I would have enjoyed them with the child, but like the whole book is just a pregnancy. I would have loved to see them with like newborn, to have like them in the first stages of parenthood. I would have loved that, and I didn't get that. And I actually didn't love the epilogue either, but I struggle with epilogues. Like romance books, epilogues are a little bit like hit and miss for me. So yeah, I enjoyed it so much. You should really read this, and it was incredible. I went to sleep at like 3 a.m. because I couldn't stop reading. So now, unfortunately, we have to talk about a romance I didn't like. Don't get mad at me, please. Don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. So unfortunately, this wasn't for me. This wasn't for me. Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer, it wasn't for me. I love a sport romance. I love a hockey romance. This was not it. Our main characters are Pippa and Jamie. Jamie is a grumpy goalie hockey player, and Pippa is his new personal assistant. But turns out they actually knew each other back in high school. Pippa thinks he's never gonna remember me. Turns out Jamie had a crush on her. So already, I don't like it, because then it's insta love immediately. Fucking page 1, they both like each other, had a crush on each other since they were 14, and they knew each other before the book starts. I kind of dislike that when that happens. They meet, they get to know each other while I get to know them. They knew each other before. Boring. It was extremely cringy. He called her Songbird. She wants to be a singer. They tried to be the deal, okay? He's the hockey player and she's the singer. They tried so hard to be the deal. Not even close. I'm not even gonna lie, I gave this 1 star. I want to give you a 0, but that's not possible. So I give you a 1.
It is so bad, I want to give you a 0, but that's not possible. So I give you a 1.
That's how I felt. It was so cringy. I actually physically sometimes had to put the book down. I was like, I can't read that. I can't read that. It was so hard to read for how cringy it was. And it was just smart. Like, wherever you open, yeah. Like, literally just smart. And like, it wasn't even a good one. Do you know what I mean? Great smart. No. I'm not gonna lie to you. I disliked every second of this. If this is your favorite book, I'm so sorry, and I'm happy for you. I wish I could have enjoyed it and not suffered. I should have DNF'd for sure, but I physically struggle so much with DNF books. So I forced myself to read it, and I was struggling so much. I hated it. The amount of times that he called her a songbird as well bothered me so much. So I apologize if that was your favorite book. But like, it's not even I'm not the target audience, because I am. Like a hockey romance, I am the target audience. A hockey romance interconnected standalones, like that's me. That's me too. So, but everyone says the second book is much better. I don't think I'm gonna give it a chance though, because I struggle too much. Next book is Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. Much better. This is a very complicated, very intense, very layered romance novel. I don't think you can call it a romance novel. I think it's like a novel with romance in it. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like Olivia Blake is always, it's so deep. And I love her writing. She's one of my favorite authors ever, and I will read her shopping list. Alone with You in the Ether talks about 2 very complicated characters, Regan and Aldo. Regan is undergoing court-ordered psychotherapy because she did something that was against the law. I'm not telling you what, because I feel like it's fun to discover it. And yeah, so now she has to go to therapy. She's bipolar, she is very impulsive, a lot goes on in her mind, so it's so fun to be in her mind. And then we have Aldo. Aldo is a genius, full-on genius. He teaches math in a college. He's an absolute genius, and he's a little bit like unaware of the world. Either doesn't care or he can't see the way other people perceive him, and I love it so much. And he's so smart, and when he talks and when he thinks, it's so he's obsessed with theories about time travel. Also, he's obsessed with bees, which I love so much. That out of nowhere he would talk about bees, and I learned so much about bees. I didn't know half of this stuff. She has a boyfriend at the beginning of the book. There's so much going on, so much happens, so much brain going on, and I love it so much. Like, they're such layered, interesting, complicated characters. And Aldo was an alcoholic before, so yeah, there's a lot going on. The beginning of the book is so interesting because it's like narrated like a play, kinda. Incredible. Also, it's very short. It's like 250 pages, so it's quite quick. The way it's narrated, it's just the best part. But yeah, I find Olivia Blake's books pretty perfect. So I gave this 4.25 stars. I had a great time. It was incredible. I was shocked at times. I was mad at times. I was happy at times. And then the last 2 books I read were on my Kindle, and they're on Kindle Unlimited. And they are Wild Like Us and Fearless Like Us by Kristen Beccarici. And these 2 are number 8 and 9 in the Like Us series. If you don't know, I mean, I've talked about the Like Us series a million times here on BookTube, on BookTok. Everyone, I think, is tired of me talking about it, but I can't do anything about it. It's so long. And if you don't know, the Like Us series is a spin-off of the Addicted/Calloway Sister series. So it talks about their kids. So these are like Nepo babies, rich billionaires, famous 20-year-olds, their relationships with their bodyguards. Some of them end up being in love with the bodyguards, because when you're like so isolated from like fame and money and lack of privacy, the only person you've got next to you is your bodyguard, you end up having feelings for them. So these 2 books are the introduction to Sully's story. Sully is Daisy and Reich's first daughter, and she's an Olympian, she's a swimmer, she gives no fucks. And she has a bodyguard that it's like her best friend since ever, which is Akara. And then she has another bodyguard who is Banks, who she's starting to have feelings for. She understands that she's having feelings for 2 bodyguards, and they kind of have feelings for her too. So there's a lot going on. It's a why choose romance. So usually not my thing, but it's part of the Leica series. I'm gonna read it because I love the characters, I love the universe. It feels like I'm going back home every time I read one of those books, because I love the Addicted series so much, and I've read 10 books for that series, and I'm reading another 13. Do you know, I've been in this universe for so many years that is just like going back home when I read one of those books. Not my favorite story, not my favorite main character. Sully's okay, but she's not my favorite. I think I gave the first book 4 stars, the second 3.5. But if it was just a romance book without the rest, it would be less. But because I love so much seeing all the characters, seeing the core 6, seeing their children, the bodyguards that I've read so much about, I love it so much. It makes it so much better because I love it. But yeah, I probably would have not loved it as much if it wasn't part of a universe that I'm so obsessed with. She is a solo climber as well, like her dad, right? So she goes on like climbing mountains, so it's very adventurous. I prefer book 8 more than book 9. So that's it. That's all the books I've read so far in 2025. And then I reread Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. But so yeah, I had a great time so far, but I haven't had a 5-star read. I haven't had a 5-star book so far this year. So maybe I should do that video like this video ends when I find a 5-star book. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps so much. All my social are down there if you want to follow me anywhere, like Goodreads, Book Talk, normal TikTok, Instagram, they're all there. I love you, and I'll see you in my next video. Ciao, ciao.